You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
Greetings, everyone. Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily, episode 1569, brought to you by Practical Horseman. Today's tip features the Horses in the Morning co-hosts, Glenn and Jamie, along with their guest, Dr. Jones, who gives us the top things all horse owners should have and know how to use in their equine first aid kit.
Train with top hunter, jumper, and eventing professionals anytime, anywhere with Practical Horseman On Demand. Your membership gives you access to hundreds of how-to training videos taught by top-level hunter, jumper, equitation, and eventing pros, exclusive interviews and lectures, slow-motion demonstrations, insider access to private clinics and lessons, and step-by-step tutorials. New content is always being rolled out, so there are always new videos available on the topics important to you. Join now for just $24.99 a month and take your training to the next level with Practical Horseman On Demand.
Good morning, Dr. Jones. It's Jamie and Glenn. You're on the air. How the heck are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you guys doing?
Great. We're so happy to have you on. And we were just reminiscing about how long it's been since you've put up with us, probably, about 10 years. So, I mean, that's amazing.
I enjoy it.
Fantastic. Well, we are going to talk today a little bit about, I like how we're kind of getting back to the basics here because we've picked your brain about everything. I want to get to like the bottom of like the easiest stuff that we can do medically as horse owners to make your job easier. And what we're going to talk about what we're going to talk about today is first aid items that every horse owner should have on hand and know how to use. So take us through the list. I'm getting a pen and I'm going to write it all down.
Well, make it easier. I do have a list on my website that might make it easier for you. That way tell our clients to download or take a look at and fill their box. My ultimate, believe it or not, number one favorite item in a first aid kit is a thermometer.
Mm-hmm.
I have had more often than not recently, especially in the heat in Florida, have people call up and say, my horse is colicking. I gave it some Banamine. It's not doing any better. It's really lethargic, but it's not doing that rolling thing. And I said, do you have a thermometer? Oh, yeah. Take its temperature. 103, 104. It's overheating. It wasn't even colicking. The horse was just overheating. So thermometer it will save you. It will save you a lot of headache and a lot of worry. So now, digital rectal thermometer from Walgreens or some sort of pharmacy will work just fine.
That was my question are those digital ones that you get for $6 at the CVS, are they accurate enough? Are they worth it?
Yes, because if they've got a fever, it's going to read it. If they are average, it's going to probably read low. Okay. And they never get hypothermic. Those poor horses up in the Arctic but Canada staying out in the snow, they're not getting hypothermic. They're fine. They got coats on them. They're doing great out there. It's rare that you see a hypothermic animal unless it's a neonatal foal or a young foal. They definitely can't thermoregulate well. The adult horses, it's a fever you got to worry about. So if your digital thermometer reads 97.9, don't think they're chilly and you got to put a blanket on them. It's just you didn't get a proper reading.
What is the normal for a horse?
Normal is between 99 and 100, 100.9, they say. Here in Florida, we can see it go up to 101 and change because a dark horse standing out in the pasture eating will absorb a lot of heat in, and they'll be like 101.2, 101.3, and that's really not a fever. It's just they're a little bit overheated, need to probably get in the shade for a little bit. That's all.
Okay.
Question about you mentioned that you get a phone call from a client. Hey, my horse is colicking. I gave it Banamine. How does that make you feel when they say they've already medicated it?
Oh, we're off into a different subject here, but it's usually from clients that I have trusted that I've given out the Banamine to. And I know that might sound a little bit, negative to some people, but I have a very strong conversation the very first time I hand Banamine out to a new client or a client that has asked for it that I've known for years and said, these are my rules. I'd like to know when you give it, not because I'm coming out and I'm going to charge you money, not because I'm going to charge you money for the phone call. I want to know when you have a problem, because if that Banamine's not working in an hour, we need to make another decision, whether I'm coming out, you're doing something different, you're hauling into me, whatever it is. We are not going to wait 3-4 hours. It's still not getting better. We're going to add more Banamine on top of that and add more Banamine on top of that. No, we're not having that situation. We are having a strong conversation that it's used once, and if it doesn't work, you call me.
Gotcha. I mean, I just remember as a vet tech, it would be so frustrating because a horse that was having a lot of problems, they would call us and they're like, we just gave it Banamine, but come on out. And then you get out there and you're like, what am I looking at? Because they don't have, their fever's down, all of the things are working. Mm-hmm. And then it's more difficult to diagnose what actually was happening with the horse in the first place because the Banamine is masking it. Okay.
Exactly. And especially if they're given more than one dose. Most of my clients, they'll give a small dose, but they won't even give a full dose because they're nervous about giving it. But a lot of them will call me before they give it. They're like, we're having this problem. Should we go ahead and try the Banamine? I'm like, go ahead and try it. If it's not any better here in the next 30 to 60 minutes, give me a holler back. We're going to go down a different road. But they've already taken the temperature because they know that's the first question out of my mouth. What is the horse's temperature? So they'll call me and say, took the horse's temperature. It's 99.9. But it's not wanting to eat its meal. What do I do? Can I give the Banamine? So I've tried to, over 25 years, get them trained per se. You want to call that.
I love it. I love that you're taking the time to educate them and not just passing it out. So the temperature is the first thing that we need in our kit. What is the next thing?
Oh, and by the way, it's a rectal digital thermometer that gives you a clue of where to take the temperature. New horse owners don't have a clue. So yes, be very careful. Have 2 people. Stand with your back to the person holding the horse in case the horse kicks you. Stand close to the horse. And I always tell people wear a glove if they want to, and they can kind of touch around the little anus area so that they don't get kicked and the horse knows what's coming. I scratch the tail head to get them to lift their tail up. They might pass a little gas. Of course, when they pass the gas, it's going to decrease your temperature a little bit, but not if they got a fever. It's not going to decrease it enough. They're going to show you a fever. And 102 or more is what I get really concerned about.
One advantage to being a horse husband is I just say, that's one thing horse husbands don't do. And I'm out.
You can hold the horse.
That's what I do. I hold the front end. Yeah. That's right.
So then my next favorite thing to have, granted in my list, the second thing is stethoscope, but not a lot of people know how to use them, and that's fine. And not a lot of people can get to them. My next favorite thing to have in a first aid kit is wraps, because of lacerations, cuts, because those are the next most common thing horses get into, is into a fence, into a kicking match, into something off of a trailer. So I recommend that people get those toolboxes that have the little tray on the top, but they have the big cavity underneath, and that big cavity underneath can hold 4 quilt leg wraps, 4 standing wraps, 4 rolls of 4-inch vet wrap, a roll of cotton. They really can hold that if you get the right size toolbox. And those are items that you're going to need to wrap a bleeding wound. You can get the gauze pads. You can get the non-adhesive gauze pads. You can get the gauze rolls, all those things to hold the bandage on. But the primary thing to stop bleeding is having a quilt wrap and standing wraps and vet wrap and roll cotton. You just keep adding it on top of each other. If the bleeding is severe, just keep adding on top. You never take a bandage off when you have severe bleeding, because then you've just opened up and taken the clot away. So you always add on top the bandage. And I always say do a quilt or cotton first, then a vet wrap or a standing wrap. If that doesn't work, do another quilt or cotton again, and a vet wrap or standing wrap on top of that. So you just keep adding on top while you're waiting for the vet to come out.
Interesting. So you just keep building. You never pull it off because you've already got something happening under there. So you just keep adding to tighten it until the vet gets there. Fascinating.
Right. It's always heavy pressure. Yeah.
That's a really good thing to have, like one of those just go bags for bleeding. Yeah. The bloody go bag. I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
What else is there?
So I named off those things. So just for simple wounds, you can handle these on your own. You've learned how to roll your bandages from your vet, or you've done a little first aid course, or you were in day camp where I taught them how to do bandaging. Is some antibiotic ointment. I'm a fan of the Neosporin ointments that you have in your house. There's easy ones to put in those little carry cases. The Novosan ointments, or they're called chlorhexidine ointments. Those are great. Nitrofurazone, we can use that in some wounds. So some sort of antibiotic ointment for smaller wounds that you can put on there, and you can wrap them again with the bandage material you've got in there and keep it clean. The other way of keeping it clean that I like to have in my first aid kit is sterile saline, and they have those spray sterile salines, or they have sterile saline washes for your eyes, for your contact lenses. You can get those and use those to spray out wounds and get the dirt and debris. Worst case scenario, always use a hose. They've shown in the medical journals that tap water doesn't really have, that's perfectly fine to use on an initial wound to get all the dirt and debris off of it. It's not going to cause a lot of bacterial infection by just rinsing with tap water. But if you want to stay sterile, you can do the sterile saline wash or sterile saline spray that they're at all the drugstores. And you just put one of those cans in there or one of those little bottles in there.
That's awesome to know that, because you can get them where they shoot out just a tiny little stream because they're for contact lenses, but you can spray a wound out. That's a great idea. Now, I am glad to know that the hose is not going to introduce bacteria into a wound, considering I drink out of the hose about 10 times a day. So that's probably good.
I do too. I'm still a kid at heart.
I'm thirsty. I need a hose.
Well,
Okay.
some people would be worried it's over a joint, and if they're all concerned, they don't want to put a hose on it. Those sterile saline eye washes and sterile saline sprays are perfect for those areas.
All right, good. Okay, we've got that. Now, what? Anything else that we need to have?
Yeah.
But I do love having a
antibacterial
stethoscope.
solution.
Okay.
The stethoscope is good to have, but let's get to finish on the wounds and say the antibacterial solutions, like I think they're called Povidone, and you'll see on the blue bottles and Walgreens and CVS and Rite Aid and all those other ones, and betadine or even chlorhexidine. And I don't like to use them straight. I always dilute them out in the sterile salines, or you can just dilute them in a water bottle and take a sip out of your little, pint water bottle. Take a quick sip out of there, put a little bit in there, make a weak tea look with the betadine or a sky blue color with the chlorhexidine. And that's enough of a disinfectant. You do not have to use it straight. In fact, it can be cytotoxic, meaning killing cells if you use it straight. So dilute it out and use that to clean the wounds out as well. And the vet will be thrilled you did that before they got there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. God, I got a shopping list. You're making me a nervous wreck.
And then, of course, I threw on there diapers. Like people like to do the diapers for the hoof wrap. I like cotton a little better, but diapers are easy to have. You can use the little white tape bandage or elasticon, 4-inch elasticon. Those are great extras to have. But the primary things I have listed at the very top, basically 1 through 12. I did add duct tape in as my number 13 item. It's great for like the hoof to put something on the toe area. I can't keep it in my truck. It gums up so bad. So that's something I'd have to keep in my house or in the refrigerator because I just can't use it. But it's good to have around and on hand for that. And then I've had, and this does not fit into your toolkit, but I have tools to pull shoes. How many times do you get a horse that steps off the trailer, clips itself, pulls a shoe up, steps down right on the clip? That happens at almost every horse show. And if you had your own tools to just pull that shoe off, you could soak that foot and probably carry on without a shoe at that show, unless they had the farrier there. So, there's just, before you get out to go for a trail ride, pull it off and then carry on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And because those shoes that are hanging halfway off can be pretty damaging if they're, leaning towards the inside of the horse's, the medial side of the horse's leg. So just, that is a good thing to have for sure. Yeah.
And then the last thing I have is prescription meds, and that I leave up to you and your veterinarian. And I believe that an eye ointment, bar none, should definitely be in your toolbox, as well as bute. But it's up to your vet about Banamine, penicillin, sulfa, SMZ tabs, whatever. That's between you and your veterinarian and the relationship you have with your veterinarian. But I think an eye ointment like the terramycin you can get over the counter or a triple antibiotic you get from your vet, I don't see any worry about dispensing those out. Yeah. No steroid in it, just the 3 antibiotics, and then a non-steroidal like a bute.
Gotcha. Fantastic. Well, I was just looking through your website, floridaequine.com, and there is a whole section called client forms. And it's, things from colic checklist, broodmare nutrition, hurricane preparedness, general care of your horse, timeline for the first 24 hours after birth, a newborn full care. This is such a great educational website. Again, you guys, it's floridaequine.com. You can read all of these things, and they've also got, if you missed any of these, writing them down that Dr. Jones mentioned, Equine Emergency First Aid Kit is in the list of client forms.
Well, there you have it. Horse Radio Network has thousands of engaging podcasts for horse people, and you can have them sent right to your phone. Just subscribe via your favorite podcast player. This is Coach Jen, and I will be back again soon with another tip. Until then, go ride your horse. The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements made by guests on the Horse Tip Daily. Please use your own judgment when listening to the tips on this show.